And as far as I'm concerned, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the Democrats or the Republicans. They've both been compromised. And these kids that were taken back to Washington, D.C., they weren't taken back just for Democrats, and they weren't taken back just for Republicans. There were Republicans and Democrats there. But anyway, I got mad. I had $164.31 in the bank, and I said, I'm going to run for President of the United States. And I did. I did. I thought about it, and I said, well, should I do? I've been a Republican all my life. Should I run as a Republican, or maybe I should go over and register Democrat for the first time my whole life and run against the real problem, Bill Clinton. So I did. I registered Democrat, and I was, you know, there's some good Democrats, good conservative Democrats, I'm sure. Someplace, I don't know where they are, but they're someplace. But anyway, then I formed a group, committee to elect Ted Gunderson, and we did raise a few dollars. The first check I received was for $1,000, and I used that $1,000 to register in New Hampshire. And I got on the ballot in New Hampshire, and then I was able to raise another $2,500, and I was able to get on the ballot in Texas. And then I raised another $500, and I sent it to Colorado, and with my $500, I met the deadlines, filled out the application, and I received a response back about 10 days later, 2 weeks later. I'm sorry, you're not a viable candidate, and they kept my $500. I tried to get on the ballot in Oregon and Tennessee. They said, you're not a viable candidate, forget it. Anyway, to make a long story short, I had, in addition to my experiences dealing with the media, this deals with number 13, dealing with the media as an FBI agent, I dealt with them as a politician. I mean, really, let's face it, I'm not really a politician, right? But it was fun. And I recall that I was campaigning in Texas. I did manage to get to Texas. I didn't manage to get to New Hampshire. My money was real short. But a man came in. He liked my platform, strictly downsize the federal government, do away with the IRS, go back to the 17th Amendment, you know, states' rights, and so forth. A man came in. He said, look, he said, I'd like to support you. And I said, fine. You know, I need all the support I can get. He said, no, financially. I said, fine, but you can only give me $1,000 unless you put a political action committee together and you give me $5,000. He said, no. He says, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go on a joint venture, and I'll invest some money, and you can come in and be a business partner with me. I said, that's great. So I thought I was going to have some money, and so I called on February the 9th. I called a television station in New Hampshire. I called WMUR, ABC TV, Manchester, New Hampshire. And I said, look, I'm Ted Gunderson. I'm a presidential candidate, and I had a committee to elect, and I'd registered with the Federal Election Commission. And I want to run Clinton Chronicles this Sunday night, or a week from Sunday night. And what will 2 hours prime time cost me? Now, I thought I was going to have the money, because this man said, well, I'll bring $750,000 in. I'm going to bring it in from overseas. And I thought he was legit. As it is, I think he was a government plant, but that's beside the point. But anyway, I thought I was going to have the money. So, you know, bear in mind, as a politician, the only way they can turn me down as a candidate, a viable candidate, is if there's sex or drugs involved in the video or the show. Well, there's drugs involved, certainly, and sex involved, but it's not by me, right? I mean, it's a documentary. So they said $20,000. And I talked to a woman named Julie Campesino. Call back Monday. Hi, Julie, this is Ted. Yes, I remember. Oh, by the way, I checked, and I was wrong on the price for 2 hours prime time. It's $120,000. So it went up $100,000. I was scheduled in New Hampshire to be on a forum, and I was canceled. And I had a feeling I was supposed to be on a forum on Friday morning. Before I got on the plane, I thought I better call. I called, and they said, well, you're not, you know, you were scheduled, but you're not going to be on there. I had an opportunity to talk at Branch Davidian rally on the state capitol building in Texas, Austin, Texas, on a Saturday morning. And I was the last speaker. There were 4 speakers. And they were filming all 3 of them before I got up. And when I got up to talk, the CBS closed down and walked away. So we're talking about the press, control of the press. Now, in New Hampshire, when the final ballot was in, by the way, I ended up 12th out of 21 candidates there. And in Texas, I was able to come up with 15,501 votes. And half of those votes were from the Christian Station TV show that I did in Houston, Texas. And so it shows you the power of television. But in New Hampshire, when the final tally came in for the Democratic primary, the press reported that Bill Clinton had 94% of the votes and the rest of us had 6%. Well, I went behind the scenes and I found out that what happened was Bill Clinton actually had 91% and 3% of the voters submitted a blank ballot. That was never reported in the press. In Iowa, there was, in one instance, there was 13% of the votes were taken away from Buchanan. And what happened was the precinct captains reported the information to the media before he gave it to the electorates. And they reported it and put it out as the official news. By the way, in the Nebraska case, this is a typical example of controlling the press. Yorkshire Television out of England came into Lincoln and Omaha and did a 10-month TV documentary of the case. They talked to Paul Bonacci, Alicia Owens, and by the way, the kids told me that there were victims. Young children were being transported from Omaha to Des Moines, to Milwaukee, to Madison, back to Minneapolis. They were being victimized by some of the leading men in all of these various communities, leading businessmen. But Yorkshire Television came in. We couldn't, John could not get an American organization or corporation or American studio or film production company to do anything here, so he went to England. They worked for 10 months. They put together a TV documentary. It's called Conspiracy in Silence. On May the 4th, 1994, it was to be aired. 2 weeks before it was to be aired, on the Discovery Channel was purchased by Cox Television, and the show was killed. Cox Television out of Atlanta, Georgia. One of the major stockholders in Cox Television, according to John DeCamp, is George Bush. I find that very interesting. Now, there was an article recently in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And since I happen to live in Las Vegas, I happen to have noticed this, but I've seen this on a number of other occasions. It's dated April 3, 1996. This article deals with the Freeman. The Freeman's beliefs are described as the headlines. I got mad not too long ago when I heard Brandy Schweitzer, Leroy Schweitzer's daughter, was claiming that her father was being tortured by the U.S. Marshal. I jumped on a plane and flew to Montana to find out for myself. I interviewed Brandy Schweitzer and Scott Schweitzer, and I interviewed another individual who saw Leroy Schweitzer, the head of the Freeman Group in Montana, the day that he was arraigned, and he had a 1.5-inch gash on his cheek, and I took statements from these people on camera. And so I do have a little bit of first-hand knowledge. I've also interviewed a number of people who have attended the school. And in fact, Jeremiah Television is doing a video on it, and I'm helping them in that regard. I just want to read this to you. But after a week of being confined to the snow-covered ranch, watched by federal agents who have a direct telephone line to the ranch compound, the Freemen are showing signs of leaning more heavily on the racist Christian identity teachings that form the basis of their politics. It's very frightening, said Eric Ward, Associate Director of the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment. Sometimes I wonder who's being harassed, by the way. The Seattle-based human rights group is well known in the region for keeping track of neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other fringe groups.